just gonna go. Thank you for everybody to be here tonight. We got actually a lot on the agenda. Hopefully it could be pretty quick. Just my biggest thing is, one of the biggest things for what our school board does is we're charged with is the oversight of funds and the fiscal responsibility of the district. And, and I just want to make sure that, especially in the past, I just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and making sure that uh, if we have to clean up on some things, we clean it up. We need to do new business, was doing new business, but my whole goal for our committee and then for the board is to make sure that we recommend new policies and to make sure our kids are taken care of out there. That's where it really comes down to. Is my whole goal is the kids on my mind. So on the finance side is making sure the resources get down to them. So and to make sure also our employees and staff are taken care of. So just want to go to Dr. Wright, you have anything you want to start off with before I head off into the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Palumbo. Basically, not much other than just that we are looking forward to the opportunity to continue to talk about school district finances. Over the past couple of years, and the only reason I'm bringing this up because of a meeting I was in yesterday, Mr. Palumbo. Over the past, I'll say 5 to 7 years, school districts have, traditional public school districts have been faced with having to do more with less. People talk about ESSER funding and things of that nature that have helped us as school districts somewhat. And that certainly was needed funding and certainly appreciated. Moving forward, though, we're going to need some help from some different sources because, as we all know and have learned over the past few months, the needs for school districts to operate efficiently are continuing to increase, whether it be personnel salaries, whether it be facilities needs and things of that nature. So while the inspection and so forth of funding is certainly what we need to be doing and making sure that we're spending funding appropriately. I just want us all to keep in mind that just as with any other entity, whether you're trying to run a household or a corporation or whatever, the cost of doing business is continuing to increase. So I just wanted to say that because of a conversation I was in yesterday, Mr. Palumbo. I think it's important for the community to understand that, we're going to continue to need things to be able to operate efficiently. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wright.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, just a reminder to, it would be wise to read the disclaimer for the meeting, the FOIA response and all that.
Trying to come up. Thank you, Mr. Zell. The meeting is held in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The news media has been notified and a copy of this agenda has been made available to the public. The meeting is open to the public and the public is welcome to attend in person. All persons wishing to attend this meeting by virtual means may do so via YouTube, Sumter District Board Meeting, and Sumter School District Facebook. The vision: Sumter School District is committed to educating, empowering, and enriching the lives of all students and reach their full potential. Mission: Sumter School District is committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and high-quality educational environment that supports diversity and equips students for the local and global success. The committee members is myself as the chair, Daniel Palumbo. Ms. Tara Kusar-Johnson is not able to be here with us today. Mr. Jeff Zell And we have subcommittee members, Paul Robbins and Mitchell Williams, that couldn't be here with us today. And then we have Mr. Kramer. This is something new that we are doing with our committee, is actually putting somebody with teacher experience on the committee to get the inside of the ground level of what's going on in the schools. And we want to hear from, and that was one of the biggest things our chair has decided, that also wants to hear from the teachers and staff at the school districts, at the school level. So welcome, and thank you for volunteering to be on the committee. And then, of course, we have Dr. Wright, our superintendent. Ms. Spearman is our chief finance officer, and Ms. Scott, our administrative manager to the superintendent and board of trustees. We'd like to go to approval of the agenda. If there's no objections, any objections on the agenda? Okay, so move. It's approved. 3.1, approval of consent agenda items for May 17th, 2023. Is there any objections? No objections. Approved. And let's get to the first, 4.1. The discussion of proposed policy of Sumter School District Policy Committee, which refers to the policy DK payment procedures to approve future Title I stipends for teachers. This goes along with, Ms. Kusar. Ms. Kusar, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, we can hear you. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
The 4.1 is discussion of the Title I stipends more. I want to hear, basically, I'm looking at wanting to do a policy, and this is the talk between the committee members of, and I'm putting this out there, of proposed policy of the Sumter School District is to request a Sumter School Board approval for all Title I stipends regarding activities which support fringe benefits for Sumter School District employees. Is basically how I came out with the policy. If we can talk it over. If the verbiage, I know Ms. Kusar, I was talking to you, if there's something better that we can look at to approach, but I want to hear from all members and Dr. Wright and I'll put that out there right now.
Mr. Chair, may I make a suggestion?
Go ahead.
I think it would probably be a good starting point to have the district kind of tell us what their idea of this is, and kind of, you know, they are the ones executing our policies, and so I think it'd be a good place to start.
Okay, agreed.
Mr. Palumbo, what I would love to have the opportunity to do, maybe perhaps not in this setting, but at some point to have a better understanding of the spirit of what the board is interested in achieving. We readily recognize that that we need to reevaluate and look at the way Title I funds are distributed. Mrs. Rhodes has done extensive work with schools, and there's clear documentation both locally and from the State Department of Education that outlines what can and cannot be done. So before I can really speak intelligently in terms of what we can do and what I would recommend, I really want to have a better understanding of maybe what the board is looking to accomplish differently. There have been corrective measures put in place to ensure that what we have just experienced does not reoccur. I think that information has been shared, and we also have consulted with the State Department of Education about what is and what is not allowable in terms of, it is typically, just as it would not be for any other normal expenditure, those processes typically don't go through the Board of Trustees for two reasons. One is that's kind of operationally responsibility of the CFO to manage those things for us. The other reason why is, particularly with a district the size of ours, because we're actually a mid-sized district, there are expenditures needing to happen all the time. So, but if we're talking about a general oversight of such, then I think that's a conversation probably warrants further discussion. And I don't know that we're prepared to intelligently respond at this point. I mean, I can give you my opinion, but that's about it right now. So I think for us, maybe a work session or something like that where we can talk about, what the board is specifically interested in seeing would give us a better opportunity to evaluate that, and then I could make recommendations. And I'd like to have also the opportunity to, for Mrs. Rhodes and I and whomever else needs to be at the table, Dr. McLeod and so forth, to tell you also what we have done to try to ensure that we don't have the inequitable distribution that we had this time. So if that makes sense to you, I mean,
Mr. Zoe?
Mr. Chair, so I agree with that. I think, not to put you on the spot, Mr. Superintendent, but, of course, I truly believe that the intent of it was good. However, the rollout, I think, was a bit clunky, and I think we can certainly get to a better process. And so as, I think, I'm not going to speak for you, but I know you well enough to know that accountability is something you want as well.
Sure.
And oversight. And so that's certainly, I'm not going to speak for the board, but I think we all want oversight and accountability to ensure that we're not, that inequities don't exist or persist. And I think we can get to a very reasonable solution without entirely impeding into operations. I want operations and you to have as much autonomy as we can give you, but also capturing that oversight element as well. And so I agree with Dr. Wright on this, and I think we should probably have this discussion in a different setting, if you will, so we can get the full idea of what the full board wants. And that's just, my understanding. Thank you for letting me speak.
One of the biggest things that, and I can see your points, and we don't want to, and that's where I'm really being specific, is the checks and balances of making sure, and it's great that you already made some changes, but this is almost like, okay, this will never happen again if basically you have to come up to the board. It's just like the general funds is, all we're looking for is, one, to be notified, especially if there's a situation, but two is, okay, if you can approach us to the board, and we're not going to say, and this is not saying it's going to approve or disapprove, it gives us the opportunity to make sure we got the, make sure that we have questions, especially with Title I, that, if we would have found out more back in May, this would probably never be an issue.
yes, sir. If I may, that's kind of what I'm alluding to again, without going into too many details at this moment. I'd like to have space to be able to give a description of what we have done, because I think that's going to clear up a lot of probably what I would be concerned about if I were a member of the Board of Trustees. I mean, it'll be clear on how we're going to approach things with regards to Title I funding in the future. And we'll still make sure that it's a part of information items with the CFO's report and things of that nature when it's appropriate to do so. What I am trying to ensure the Board of Trustees is that that we're going to work to make sure that everything remains as it should, and you know, we're not going to short sight our students and things of that nature, which I think the Board of Trustees certainly wants and makes sense to all of us. But I also want to make sure that we don't hamper our ability to conduct day-to-day business. So for me, I have to do the best I can to kind of try to balance that. You know, make sure that you guys are informed. We're always going to try to do that, but I need to be able to. My folks that are managing that need to be able to conduct day-to-day business. So that's really what I'm looking at, Mr. Palumbo. More so than we're not going to try keeping the thing from you, but that's why I think we need to have the valuable discussion at the appropriate time. Yes, sir.
Ms. Johnson, do you have anything?
I do not have anything at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Kramer, you have any questions? So, what do you propose to move forward on it? Is have a working session meeting with the board, or
what I'm thinking, Mr. Palumbo, if you think that'll be appropriate, if you know we've got a meeting Monday where we can report, you know, to be a part of the report, that we can add that to our work session agenda for the fourth Monday in the month. Okay. And I think we can have a discussion about it at that point with the appropriate people present at that meeting.
And I'm just looking also too, is it's not just for us that's in here, is whoever is going to be in those positions in the next 10, 15 years, is to make sure, you know, we do our due diligence. It doesn't happen.
That's our intent as well, but I think it's important for us to have state representative available at that meeting to talk about what is and is not permissible too, because I think there appears to be a bit of lack of clarity with that. So that's really why I want to do that, so we can have the appropriate people in place. Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
4.2, discussion on proposed policy and Sumter School District Policy Committee for Policy DK payment procedures to approve future Title I budgets amendment. Basically, this goes along with just kind of like how we do with our general funds, how we get briefed, and we approve the budget to move on. Is I'm looking at the insights of, do we do this with Title I? And if we do, basically the policy is pretty simple. Sumter School Board District is required to submit Title I budget to Sumter School Board for approval before submitting to the South Carolina Department of Education before they get it. And looking for, yes, Mr. Zell.
Mr. Chair, I think that goes along to what, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Superintendent, is, you know, before we propose any sort of policy, it'd probably be better to have a conversation more about and frame it out, what's required, what's possible, what's legal for us, and what's not, right? Before we can make, I think, let's not put the cart before the horse on
Correct.
this one. So I think that I think both those go hand in hand, and without spinning our wheels,
Yeah.
we should you know, have that discussion.
Correct. Same thing, Dr. Ryan.
Yeah, yes, sir. That would be my preference, to do that at the meeting, fourth Monday in September as well. Yes, sir.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Just making sure. Mr. Kramer, any questions? 4.3, discussion of proposed policy to Sumter School District Policy Committee to approve full-time stipends for volunteer part-time coaches. We've already, the board was approached by athletic directors a couple of meetings ago, I believe. And in regards to non-district coaches that are volunteer coaching out there, they don't make as much as what the full-time or for the actual staff of Sumter school districts, which in my mind it looks not completely fair and equitable. It's pretty much they're doing the same job and they're not getting paid as much. So I wanted to see to bring this up to the board for approval to equal their pay, and I'll put it out there to the committee.
Mr. Chair, I believe, and going into the salary study, and I'm still looking into it, I'm trying to digest it, I'm probably about halfway through. I believe the salary study actually addresses this very issue. Am I correct on that, Mr. Superintendent? And so it looks like from and I'm trying to pull it up right now, it appears that there are some categories of coaches who actually, when compared to the adjacent school districts, it appears that we may be over in some, but and also we are below some others as well. And so I think that certainly warrants a discussion, and I think that most certainly we need to be competitive and right size. I'm gonna keep doing that as we right size this business in this district. I think that we it wouldn't. How do I say this? I don't know if it adds any value to, and I could be wrong on this, but I don't know if it adds any value to partition off the coach's stipend outside of the salary study when the salary study is going to be up for a full vote. Does that make sense? And so, I mean, it certainly warrants a discussion as far as like, are those numbers, are they good or not? I mean, I trust the numbers, but I think we should, it's all wrapped up in one. Does that make sense?
Dr. Ray.
Excuse me, Mr. Palumbo, a couple of things. First of all, we probably need to remove the word time from this description. Here's why I'm saying that. Typically in particular school district evaluation of performance pay or pay in general, when we use the word full-time, it is typically a fully employed employee, so 40 hours plus. So we probably need to remove that word. I think, having said that, I think what we're saying here is that people who are non-district employees who work with us should be paid the same as district employees in stipends. Is that? I think that's really what we're trying to get at. So, because when we use the word volunteer, it typically equates itself to being non-paid. So, again, I think this is one of those things where we need to get the spirit of what is being requested so that we can get the language right. If the intent here is to ensure that that non-district employees who coach for us are paid the same as district employees who coach for us, then that is something that we can look at in HR with finance and review and bring back a recommendation to the Board of Trustees to consider. But I think we want to be careful about using the words full time, because that denotes somebody that's with us full time, and we probably don't want part-time assistant coaches making what full-time employees make. So we'll clean that up, if you will, and have it ready. I think it's appropriate to discuss and look at what we can do. And you're right, Mr. Zell, there is language in there about that.
So that will clear up if we approve the budget, the salary study.
It should, yes, sir. It should, but we can still
Double
look
check
at it
it.
and see to make sure that it's. The challenge with that, to be quite honest with you, is In higher revenue sports, although these days schools in general don't have too many revenue sports, but it is probably feasible to do what we're talking about. Here's where you run into a bit of a challenge. Let's say we're talking about boys and girls golf. Let's just use that as an example. You might have someone that wants to donate time and be a volunteer, but you may or may not be able to compensate that person at the rate that you would the assistant coach for the other team. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of that we'll have to work out, but we'll be glad to review that and get it back to you. I get the spirit of what we're asking to do, and we can work through that.
So it's
Yes, sir.
similar in the past, it's, you know, how we, with our salaries and it's, we just need to.
Same kind of thing, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
okay.
Absolutely, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm clear on that, yes, sir. Very
Miss-
clear on that, yes, sir.
Ms. Johnson? She's still on. Mr. Kramer, you have any questions? Okay. Ms. Johnson?
Hello, I'm in listen-only mode at this
Oh, okay.
time. If anything comes up that I need to chime in on, I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not a problem. So, your recommendation, same thing, is basically talk it over and bring it up to us in the future.
Dr. Coombs, you think the 11th or the 25th for us to be ready to bring that? Dr. Coombs and Mrs. Spearman, 25th, probably need that much time because 11th is this coming Monday. So, yes, sir, we can have that ready for the 25th as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And 4.4, review of old and new capital bond projects. And Ms. Spearman?
Okay, it's green. Good evening. I'm here before you to review the current capital bond proceed projects. I wanted to start by just general information that the encumbered amounts that you see on these reports represent current ongoing projects where we've secured a quote, we've secured a vendor, and they're working, and of course, we don't normally pay until the work is completed. So to see a number in the encumbered column is great progress. Another assumption or general information we want to make sure we know is that whenever a project comes under budget, we do one of two things. We are going to move the funds to other facility needs within that bond series, or we're going to move the funds to a project that went over budget. I know every day we try to get the best estimate, but once some vendors get into jobs, they see that additional things are needed, or for whatever reason it may exceed. And so just as we have projects that go over budget, we have projects that come in under budget as well. And so we try to make sure that we utilize those funds to the best of our ability. A final thing to consider is that some projects are requested each year or every other year, and there may be some duplicate lines of the same things, such as roofing and Chromebooks that you see. Our goal, of course, is to try to utilize the earliest funds for those projects first, and while ensuring that the district has funding for these routine projects. So just wanted to kind of set that stage on how we utilize these funds. The next page just shows location codes, so that if you see financial reports, the last two digits on those accounts normally relate to these location codes, and that'll tell you what school or what location projects are being expended for. So to begin, of course, the hot topic here is our Bond 520, which is the R.E. Davis monies. That is the earliest one that we had. It was approved back in 2018. These funds, of course, have not been utilized, as we know. Administration does have a recommendation to reallocate these funds for improvements to the Maywood football field and track for the use of the R.E. Davis students, and we know that they utilize those, that space. So that's what our recommendation is for that, to better utilize those funds. Our next bond series is 521. This series has been completed. All projects are done and completed. And that was back in fall of 2018. Our next bond series is 522, the spring of 2019. We only have an encumbered amount because we have a lot of roof projects going on right now. So those funds, of course, have been secured, and once the project is completed, they will be expended. And again, this bond series will be completed. Our bond series 523, approved in the fall of 2019. We have only a remaining balance of $3,607. These leftover funds will be utilized on the next purchase of staff furniture. Again, remember, ESSER funds has supplied and is supplying furniture for our student and teacher classrooms, and we were allocated approximately $5 million for the ESSER furniture for those classrooms. And so we are maximizing the use of those funds. We have quotes secured, and so there will be a lot of activity going on in that area on the ESSER side. But a lot of these projects that we have, ESSER has provided funding, and so of course we want to use ESSER first in most cases, and then utilize these capital project funds. And once we do have quotes secured for our staff furniture there, and that will be the first amount utilized, and that bond series will be completed. Bond Series 524 was approved back in spring 2020. We have some items that are in progress. There is $25,000 left on the district office entry gates. The status update for that is that we met with a vendor to rectify installation, and we are now ready to order parts. We have $391 left on the Crestwell Ball Field sound system. That project is completed, and so as we do, we will reallocate those funds to ongoing projects that may go over budget. On the walkie-talkie radios, we do have encumbrances secured on that, so this is ongoing, and we are continually obtaining quotes for buses and maintenance for those walkie-talkie equipment. The next one is $13.45. The project is completed, and we will reallocate those funds to the to funds that may go over budget. For our janitorial equipment, we have currently obtained quotes to purchase subvacs and floor strippers. Those funds will be utilized this year. And then our metal detectors, of course, we know that we are currently obtaining quotes for the ones needed for those detectors. And so we anticipate, again, those funds will be utilized this year. So this year will be a critical year to utilize those funds as well as the ESSER funds at the same time. Our bond series 525 was approved in the fall of 2020. We have roofing projects that are ongoing. Again, we utilize the oldest funds first, and so we will be utilizing those funds. On the athletic field improvements, it's an ongoing project. We are working with an engineer on plans and drawings for those improvements. Crestwood softball and football fields will soon be ready for bid. So we're excited about that movement. Environmental testing fees. Again, back in, I believe, 18, the district had a major fuel leak, and so a considerable amount of monies was secured for that. Every year, annually, the district maintains an annual testing that we do. And that along with our insurance, we utilize that and any proceeds from our insurance to secure those invoices for that visit. And so these funds will be utilized for that because we do that annually. Depending on what is going on, we've spent 1 year $20,000, another year $40,000. So we will continue to utilize those funds each year, and we will probably be allocating another amount in our next bond series to secure future years. On D, that's furniture. That project was completed, and that is funds. These funds will be used in our next purchase of staff furniture. Again, ESSER funds are being used for our student and teacher classroom furniture. I want to make sure we're clear on that. On E and G are for Promethean panels. That's what the district had approved to be utilized for those. The Information Technology Department will be utilizing those funds to replace the older model Promethean boards. Of course, we already know those are already out of date or out of the current style, so those will be replaced with older models. And F represents our surveillance and access control. There's only $1,150 left of that. The IT department reported that they will be purchasing storage technology for the surveillance videos at our schools and locations because we definitely need more storage capability there. Okay. For our bond series 526, it was approved in spring 2021. We have $14,000 left out of the Hillcrest Stadium renovations. This project is completed. In this instance, the remaining funds we want to reallocate to refurbish ticket booths related to that. And that is how the district determines on how to maximize those funds. The HVAC system B that you see, this is a system glitch per the vendor of our accounting system. This will self-correct itself once the project is marked complete. Through the use of ESSER funds and capital bond proceed funds, when we issue purchase orders and we ensure proper funding, we put both of those account numbers on. For some reason, the system did not like that. And so we are waiting for those projects to be completed, and that will fall off. So we have contacted our vendor, and we're making sure that our expenditures are showing properly for those projects.
Ma'am, before I forget, just real quick, do we have a timeline when expected that to be completed, the HVAC?
The HVACs, they're still, it's ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah, we still have some that haven't even been
Oh,
replaced
so it's
yet.
gonna be some time. Okay.
Yes, it will be. No, no
Curious.
problem. In fact, we'll probably need to reallocate funds again in future bonds for that. Yes. For C, our window replacement masters, operations will access priority needs for window replacement needs by school and begin procurement actions on that. On D, we are working with a civil engineer regarding the Alice Drive grading project. They are being engaged in order to find the best solution for the drainage issues that are out there. On E, we have $55,000 in gutter repairs. In this instance, operations is currently evaluating the possibility of reallocating these funds because as we repair roofs, they automatically come with gutter replacements. And so therefore, those funds may or may not be necessary. So we're trying to wait some of the projects out to maximize those funds, and then we will offer a reallocation request. For F, other facility needs, these are, again, we normally try to budget monies for this line item. These are for projects that go over budget or for needed actions that come up during approved projects. For G, we have that full allocation. Communications vendor that got that award was A3, and they were out here last week and visited 6 schools to determine door access needs. So we are now awaiting quotes. On H, We have $600, approximately $600 left. The IT department plans to purchase backup technology again to safeguard data. And the vehicles technicians, this is about $64,838. This is administration's second recommendation. We recommend that the board reallocate the $64,838 to purchase Promethean boards. J, other technology needs. The IT department plans to purchase cellular signal boosters in schools that are still having issues with connectivity or spots. Our bond series 526 was approved in fall of 2021. Again, roofing projects are ongoing. The athletic fields, that amount of $1,047,556. All 3 tracks will be put out for bid this year. The district's goal is to not interfere with football games. C, repairs and painting. These are all ongoing as there is a painting allocation in ESSER as well. So the district is utilizing earlier funds within these capital projects for painting projects. And then this allocation ensures that painting will continue to be addressed. D, our carpeting flooring allocation. This too, the same situation is ongoing. The district is utilizing earlier funds, including ESSER allocations, because we have a carpeting ESSER allocation. Carpeting and flooring projects first. This allocation ensures that carpeting and flooring needs will continue to be addressed. Our bond series 528 was approved in the spring of 2022. Again, roofing, ongoing project. Our next item is the Crestwood Stadium. It is also currently ongoing. Our Millwood serving line, we're waiting on specifications and scope of work from our engineer regarding that project. Projects D through G represent the security door projects. Frames and glass are installed at several locations, and we are awaiting hardware delivery. H through K are ongoing projects where the district is utilizing earlier allocations first for these projects, and that does ensure continuity with these projects in the future. Bond Series 529 was approved in fall 2022. The first project is the annex stucco wall repair in the amount of $54,608 left. It is ongoing as we have 2 change orders in progress with that project. Next project is roofing of $342,000. It is ongoing where we will utilize older funding first. The Millwood kitchen wall, it is ongoing and may come in under budget. And the district plans to use the funds for the Millwood serving line project if needed. If that $55,000 that you saw prior is not enough, we plan to use this line item to assist in that. That way Millwood will be benefited. On D, the flooring, we have $14,000 left in the flooring. It is ongoing right now as we speak, and we'll probably utilize that up very soon, I'm sorry. E, on E, the security doors allocation, again, that is ongoing, and we do have a change order in progress on those doors. On F, we have approximately $140,000 related to the Willow Drive grading project. That is ongoing as an architect is actually working on creating that change order and helping us with that. On G, we have the ADA compliant stadiums to the tune of $150,000. Handrails are currently being installed and measurements are being obtained for the sidewalks. So it is ongoing. H, science labs, old chemical removal in the amount of $27,000. It is ongoing and is complete for high and middle schools. Academic staff are currently assessing needs for the elementary schools. We have $73,100 of the repainting maintenance vehicles. That is ongoing as the vehicles are being utilized. So as we take one out to get that service, of course, we're in need of that vehicle. So we're being very strategic in when we pull that piece of fleet out to get that paint done. So those funds are being utilized. Let's see. For J, we have $98,502 left on the ADA playground equipment. That is ongoing. We've identified 4 schools that need special education ADA compliant playgrounds. Those 4 schools are Pocalla Springs, Wilder, Willow Drive, and High Hills. On K, metal detectors. Of course, as we know, those are ongoing. We completed the first round of schools, which included high schools, SASE, Adult Ed, and Career Center. L is the student Chromebooks, again, ongoing project, as the district utilizes earlier allocations first and ensures that we have a supply of Chromebooks funding for that. M through O, the surveillance servers, the environmental sensors, and the surveillance and access controls, ongoing projects. As you know, these are duplicate projects, so district is utilizing the earlier allocations first. The next projects are the fine arts allocations. As we know, we allocated $200,000 to fine arts, and these are the remaining balances as they are utilizing these funds as they need. Also, the athletic portion in the last bond, in the fall 22 bond, we also allocated a line item for athletics. They are utilizing these supply lines, and so they utilize those as needed. Other facility needs, P, as we know, that is designated for the Delane location, and so we will be utilizing those funds to get Delane up and ready. Our final bond series 530, which was approved for spring of 2023, we have $165,000 left out of the construct hallway restroom. It is currently out for bid. And that, I believe, is Lamira location? Yes, for the Lamira location, 31. B is our HVAC replacement master, where we have $976,000 related to that. Again, this is ongoing and in combination with earlier allocations and ESSER funding, because ESSER also has a line item for HVAC, which we pretty much used up, pretty much. C is our roofing master. Again, roofing is ongoing. D is our softball backstops master, $150,000. We're currently seeking contractors and we'll put this out for bid. E is our softball restrooms and concessions area. This is ongoing and we are currently getting plans drawn. F, striping parking lots master, ongoing. G, ongoing as well. Braille signs master, we actually have orders that have been made regarding G. G is the office furniture master, I'm sorry. That we have, orders have been made for that furniture. H is our Braille signs master. That is in the status of seeking quotes to get these installed. I is our football scoreboards, ongoing. Orders are underway for the middle schools. J is our playground equipment master. This is funds dedicated for refurbishing and repairing existing playgrounds, and it is ongoing. K, our mini excavator. As you see, we came in under budget in the amount of $476. The excavator arrived this week, and the district will move remaining funds to other facility needs. L is that is our other facility needs, so that amount we'll be using for those things that come up over budget or what have you. M is our bus GPS. We have $3,500 left for that. That will be used for incidentals related to the bus GPS. N, we've had movement on the cafeteria seats. We have cafeteria seats that have been ordered. O, weapons detectives master to the tune of $375,000. This represents funding for the second round of schools to receive those weapons detectors. P is our student Chromebooks, and Q is our student Chromebooks. Again, is our Promethean boards. Again, these are allocations where we use the earlier allocations first, and we make sure that continuity will exist for those projects in the future. This concludes the old and new project review.
Thank you, Ms. Bierman.
Yes, sir.
Questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just what is a Promethean board?
Oh, it's a special board.
Is it a scoreboard?
No, this.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool. I've been
yeah.
staring at one the whole time. Okay, all right. So I just have a couple questions. First, I would like clarification, and I know this board has talked extensively about this, the community has talked extensively about it, is the elephant in the room, R.E. Davis Fields. Can we get clarification that those are in fact, the field, a dead project? And I use that term specifically because, correct me if I'm wrong, South Carolina Department of Health and DHEC will not approve that ground to be built on, correct? Okay, so that is correct for the record.
Yes.
So anybody that thinks that we can build on that land is wrong. And I just want to make that as clear as I possibly can. So that said, I do appreciate the recommendation. I think it's good that we try to keep monies in-house where they were determined to be used. I am definitely advocate for that. Well, I certainly think we need to be innovative and also very deliberate in how we do that. But I think I appreciate the board's or the district's recommendation on what to do with that money. So my question is, the ADA playgrounds, will that get us up to speed on any sort of ADA noncompliance for that? Will we have any more? Okay, so we'll, all right, good deal. And then this is a very, very specific question. The striping of the parking lots, does that include bus depots as well? Or is that just regular parking lots? Do you know? Okay, to include the bus depots?
We started with the bus parking.
Oh, perfect. All right, excellent. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate it. The other facility, no, I'm not even gonna ask that question. And then, okay, so the vehicles, it said, vehicles technician. Was that a need that as time progressed, we determined we didn't need it?
Well, we made sure that we had enough vehicles for them to go to the different locations.
Sure.
And so right now, his staff has adequate
Okay, good.
vehicles, so we want to maximize those funds.
Absolutely. Okay,
elsewhere.
great. That's all I had. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Palomo, if I might offer a point of clarification, I want to make sure that, in the spirit of what Mr. Zell said. So the R.E. Davis recommendation is that we use the funding that was designed for the original field to upfit the field that they're currently playing on. So I want to be clear, I get dead in the sense that you're saying, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that we are using those funds, and work has already actually begun, to be honest with you, on that. We've had folks out there assessing what we're doing, but the R.E. Davis field, if you will be on the Maywood Middle Campus just as it has been, and you're going to see that field upfitted and gotten appropriate for. Field and the track actually will be upfitted. There'll also be some other things that we'll we'll roll out at the appropriate time. And I think people are going to be pleased with the work that we've agreed upon to do with that funding to provide an environment for those children. So, yeah. So I wanted to be clear on that. We are doing something with the money. It's just going to be at the Maywood campus. I appreciate that. Yep. All right. Thanks.
Dr. Wright, just question, because Maywood Field is, I seen you're out there the other day.
Yes, sir.
Just more of a clarification of, because it's a decent field already out there, it just needs to be upgraded. So do you think it would cost that much money, or is it just because you kind of basically right now just looking at starting the project, and so kind of from start, right?
Yes, sir. Because of the extent of what we're having to do, we're having to do some, the short story I'll tell right now because of the audience we have is we're having to do some major renovations, I guess would probably be the simplest way to put it. And actually we're going to have to do some minor construction and upfitting. So it's not going to be as simple as fixing the turf and painting it's going to be pretty extensive to get us where we are equivalent or whatever with middle school fields. So it's that field was in need of an extensive amount of work. So hopefully we can come in a little under, but we right now I would like to recommend to transfer the whole amount, and then we'll kind of see how it goes. But it's going to be more work than you would usually have to do to upfit it, because we're going to have to do something as simple as right now the track, for instance, that we're going to have to fix up is overseeded with 20-year-old grass. So we got to get all of that. That's just one example. So we got to get all of that up and then get a surface that is conducive for middle school kids to run on. So that's just one example. I mean, there's a pretty extensive amount of work that needs to be done there. So the short answer to your question is we hope not, but it could cost that much. Yes, sir.
Your recommendation is is it gonna be the next board meeting?
Right. The recommendation to transfer the funds
Correct.
will be at the next board meeting. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. This is Tara Johnson. A couple of questions, actually. As far as the items that are listed on the reports that was just given, Ms. Spearman just gave, do we have a timeline, perhaps not for everything that is there, perhaps it's something we can work on, but do we have a timeline for those projects?
Yes, we actually know or have an idea, but to put it on paper for you, we can try to get that for you.
Okay, thank you so very much. And I'm sure that this is well-known and established. I just don't recall, so I want to make certain that I asked a question to clarify. How are what's the SOP for how we're using metal detectors in our schools where they are today?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Our metal detectors, as read in the report, have been ordered, and training has been completed for our high schools, SASE, which is our alternative school, adult ed, and the Career Center. We're in the process of ensuring that those items can be taken to the schools, providing additional training and making sure that everyone knows how to operate those units. Once we've completed that process, we'll move on to the other schools with the funds that are allocated for that, and we will continue to keep you posted on how that's going. But we are rolling out the first wave to those programs that we just mentioned.
Okay, thank you, that does answer my question, and just to be certain, since I am on the phone, that I heard correctly, we're currently not using them in the schools, but we're going through the necessary training for them to be able to use them in schools.
That is correct.
Thank you for clarifying.
The follow-up question is, do you have an estimate? Are you starting off with the high schools first, or and
All
going
of the
down to the
area,
middle?
all of the areas that we just mentioned are the ones we're starting with, so
Okay.
we're gonna roll them out in.
I mean, like the next phase, your different, you say you have a
We
couple
have
of.
middle schools and elementary
Yeah.
schools that'll come on next.
that-
Yeah,
okay.
For point of clarity, 3 high schools, alternative school, and career center are the first wave,
Okay.
and then we'll move on to the next wave.
Any-
Sure. This is kind of a follow-up question off of Ms. Johnson's. Is there anything, actually, you know what, I'm gonna harken back to our Transportation Committee the other day, meeting. Is there anything that this board can do? Listen, I was in the Air Force 20 years. I know a lot of these contracts take forever. Keeping tracking of them and getting some of these companies to move on them is very difficult. I would totally understand. That said, is there anything that this board can do to kind of maybe grease the wheels a little bit, to maybe put pressure on places that we legally and ethically can to make some of these things happen at a quicker pace? Is that something that boards do? And if it is, count me on that team.
Well, it does, and this, Ms. Bierman, like, I've dealt with government contracts before. Does here at a local level, do we put on where a date and they get penalized if they don't meet that deadline?
Right, we do have some controls in place about paying like final invoice and making sure work is done. We have people come out and assess the work that's being done to make sure that we haven't been railroaded in any way. So the state procurement does have precautions and securities for school districts on the process for procurement. And so a lot of times the procurement process is what may take the longest. Like, for instance, let's say, you have to put it out a certain amount of days and you have to be in compliance with that. So there are safety measures in place to make sure, but we make sure that we pay it fully when the work is completed and inspected and complete.
Thank you.
Can I just have a follow-up on that? Do we find ourselves historically with some of these projects where we have to actually utilize some of those controls? Where we have to say, hey, company, Acme company, you're not doing it like you said you were. Do we have to flex on them at all? Have we had to do that? Is the outcome usually they get it done? Or,
We have to give that vendor that was selected for that project an opportunity to rectify, to correct the work. And then we do have outlets to contact the state procurement to assist us if necessary. And of course, we've had that in the past. Of course, we have. And we make sure that the district is not going to be in a bad position as a result of it.
Well, I just want to put it out there, if there's anything that, we can do as a board, as a committee, to address those at this level. I don't know what there is. Y'all are the experts. Please bring it to us, and we'll do the best we can with what we can to help out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I
Yes,
answer?
I do have another
Oh,
question, thank you. This question, is not specifically related to the discussions that we're having right now, but it is, I guess, connected to it in some ways. When we think about the athletic fields, the tickets online, I know that, across the state, we're doing the tickets online. Is there an alternative for those who want to purchase tickets through other mediums? Like, can they purchase at the schools, or are there other outlets? And if that is the case, is this publicized on our district website?
There is an additional option. They do purchase tickets online. However, we had to ensure that persons who wanted to pay at the gates could do so, and they have been doing that with all of the athletic competitions we've had since the beginning of this school year.
Thank you so much.
I would love to briefly answer Mr. Zell's question earlier. It is always helpful if board members can, or anyone, but certainly board members can advocate for the continuation or the addition of funding. No matter what some folks try to tell you, school districts have been underfunded for years, and each time that we enter a new school year, it ceases to amaze me that the additional requirements, if you will, that state and federal government puts on us, and many of those mandates are unfunded. So that is some of the largest work that can be done. In terms of interacting with vendors and things of that nature, I mean, I think that's okay as well, as long as we're not shooting ourselves in the foot, because if we're getting HVAC work done and there's only one commercial HVAC vendor, and then we might have a little bit more wiggle room to work with them, and sometimes we run into that. But the biggest work is this whole thing around advocacy for public school districts, particularly that are being frugal with their spending. If we're misappropriating, that's one thing, but if we're, as you see tonight, we got a lot of things that we're doing to try to better the district. And so what we need is advocacy to make sure that that we're continuing to receive funding from the three sources that, federal government funds, state funds, local funds, because we need them. I mean, we're behind and we need to catch up. So that's really the answer to your question from my perspective, Mr. Zell. We need that continued help with advocacy. Yes, sir. All right.
And one last question, Ms. Spearman. You said there's how many recommendations that you're going to bring up to the board? I think you said 2 or 3.
Have 2 recommendations. One to utilize the Artie Davis funds for the Maywood track and field, and then also to utilize the IT vehicle allocation to put in the Promethean board budget. But we want to really get serious and update those boards.
Gotcha. So that should clear up some of these older, well, R.D. Davis is the oldest one. That would clear that up. And then, of course, the Promethean board and with the project. Well, thank you. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to 4.5. This is also in regards to just talking about, we do, and I kind of put to the public, speed them up. We do have land out towards on coastal Carolina, we own out there that is just sitting out there, and that we have to start thinking and deciding what we're going to do with it. Technical high school has actually been proposed to be out there. Great idea. Problem is we need to find the funding if we do anything with it. One of the ideas I brought up to attention is the Penny Project, which is an ongoing thing that now for the 2024 election, which I spoke to county council. There is a possibility there, but that doesn't get us, it's not going to get us all the money that we would need to put out there if we do get approved for it, because they have to go through. There is a way that we have to bring it up to their attention, and then hopefully they can vote on and approve it to put it on there. But again, it gets a little tricky because it could be more for the equipment that we really need out there. It's not for specifically for the building. But if we are getting a technical high school, it's going to be very expensive for the equipment to be put in there. So that alone probably will take up half the budget to put in there. The other problem would be is looking at trying to find the additional funding for it. I just want to start the conversation right now because we are probably up against the clock on this. And Dr. Wright, you can make whatever you can inform the public of what we're needing to do.
What I can say at this point is that at the direction of the current Board of Trustees, we are in the process of asking for an additional extension to have the project considered, and that'll give us more time to have those discussions about the very things that you're talking about, Mr. Palumbo, how we get it funded and those things. But I am hoping that we will have an answer on our ability to expand the deadline, if you will, to get substantial construction started very shortly.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any committee members have any questions at this time?
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's more of a statement than anything, but I'm currently finishing my degree, and I'm focusing on education reform in South Carolina, and specifically with career tech education. And I know I talked to Dr. Many times, had his ear, telling him how much of an advocate I am for this process and this program, simply because it's, by all measurements, by every measurement I have seen, career tech high schools in the state of South Carolina don't just beat the state average and standard, they beat every single one by nearly double digits, or yes, double digits. And so it's a matter of, I think, vision, as our chairman had stated, having a long-term vision, what this district looks like in the turning century, what it looks like, what education looks like. And of course we have political inputs, we have structural, financial, all these inputs that we have to consider. I appreciate you bringing this to the forefront and to the public, because it's no secret that the Midlands school districts are struggling and have been for some time. It's in the statistics, and I think this is, and not to speak for the board, but to speak for myself, I believe that if we're going to get real serious and have a real strong vision of what this education system looks like in Sumter County, this has to be part of the conversation. Whether it's a result, I can't promise, and I don't know. But I think it's certainly worth having the conversation and very forthright. So that's the statement I want to make. I'm very much in favor, but simply being in favor doesn't build a building either. So we have to figure out, if we're going to be serious long-term about this, how does that look like? What does it look like? Where does the funding come from? Where does it go? I mean, we have a lot to talk about. So, but I just appreciate you bringing that to the public and to this board, and it means a lot to me. And so I'm definitely looking forward to having this conversation. Thank you.
I also agree with your sentiment about what we need to do, because I think we can do, and I'm going to get into this in 5.1, but along with Dr. Wright, I understand we got old schools out there, so we definitely can chew gum and walk at the same time, and we need to start thinking that way. I think if the public rallies around this, I think this would be a great thing for our community. It could be a feeder into the manufacturing industry that we have out here. Our kids are looking at more of those technical type career fields, to get them excited about those type of career fields, because we need them, and we desperately need them. The biggest thing is, if there's grants that we can be looking for, anything to try to get this done, and at least get a plan together. And of course, we may have to contact our leaders in the state. Hopefully, maybe they can come through for us on this situation. Sir, do you have any questions on this, or how you would feel, especially being a teacher in Crestwood?
I just think that what I know about it is a very good idea, because I believe there are a lot of students who would benefit from it. There are students who would be much more engaged and be getting much more out of their time in school. I mean, I would obviously, from my level, you know, be curious how it would impact the other schools. But overall, I believe, you know, I support what Mr. Zell was saying and such. I think it's a good idea to look into.
Yeah, along with this, if we can team up with Carolina, um, to help us get that going, because we're gonna be right across the street. I mean, it can benefit them a lot too, so. Ms. Johnson, you have any word on that, on this?
Yes, I would say, I know that we are excited about the potential, even the possibility of a technical high school. And I think, once we work through the details and truly understand if it's something or when we can make it happen, it's equally as important through that process to ensure that the public is aware so that they can get excited as well. I know you all have already mentioned the students, but it's also critical with all of our stakeholders. The community needs to be excited about this. I think the more people that we can get behind something of this caliber, excuse me, the more likely it is to happen and happen in a timely manner. So let's just make certain that we get as many people in the know and involved and excited as we are to make it happen.
Basically, we just need Team Sumter to come rally around us, and hopefully we can get it going. So, any last word, Dr. Ryan, on it?
No, sir, other than just thank you for continuing to be concerned about making life better for our students and our community ultimately.
Thank you, sir. That kind of goes along with 5.1, steps moving forward. What I would like to happen is our next meeting is we're gonna, and Dr. Reagan and I basically, I talked to him in the past, is have a joint meeting, because I think it is critical to understand, to have a 10 to 15, 20-year plan of our schools. There is no plans right now, none. So it's going to take a little bit because we're all new at this, but we definitely need to get the looking at elementary schools and combining schools and all the options are on the table to figure out how we're going to do this, and speaking about bond referendums and all that. So our next meeting, I believe we're going to team up and we're going to have the facilities committee and the finance committee and try to work as a team and start getting the ball rolling. And I know that, Dr. Wright, that's one of your biggest things that you want to get going, so.
Mr. Chair, I believe he has to go
Yes.
to a previously scheduled engagement, so, but I just want to make a quick statement before we move on, if that's okay, if that's all right. So, you know, Dr. Wright, and I don't want to speak for him, but he's made it abundantly clear that the state of our facilities, the age of our facilities is one of his top priorities. Am I correct in that assessment? That said, we do need a long-term vision. We're looking at salary study, we're looking at the realignment, we're looking at all these things that could have a short-term benefit, but if we are only addressing the short-term issues, long-term problems could come back to bite us pretty hard. So I think that I appreciate where you're focusing your efforts on the long-term as well as the short-term with the superintendent and with the facilities committee. I think that gets us to where we want to go. And so one of the things my ask would be for the district, if we could, you know, it's all about data. I need to be able to point at something and say, hey, you know, we have 5 schools that are 20 years past their service life. Well, that's a good data point to bring up to whomever is interested in this school district. So I would ask that we could get that data at some point in the future and kind of advertise that to the community and kind of tell us where we're at.
I 100%, I know you got to leave. Do you have any last words? And I'll. Okay. I 100% agree, and I think if the school district, especially Ms. Spearman and Mr. Myers, to come together as, especially that first meeting that we'll have together, joint meeting, is basically, okay, here's what we need, or basically, we need a plan, and I know we're starting from scratch. So if we have to go talk to another school district to say, what did you guys do for a 10, 15, 20-year plan? Let's get that going. And so I'm guessing I'll get with Dr. Reagan on our next meeting, and I want to hear from the teacher's perspective, especially if you hear from the elementary schools, because a lot of those elementary schools are probably the ones that we're going to be concentrating on. If we need to be looking at if we got to combine them. I know it can happen. You can have, I go out to all these schools all the time. In Lexington, I'll give them a little praise. They got some gorgeous elementary schools that look like college campuses out there. So, and they have 1,000 kids, elementary school kids out there. So, I think that mind frame of small schools, small population, small schools, I think that they've proven now is you can still have a large school and have 1,000 people, and that will save us money to combine some schools in the future. So, again, this is for the public. This is not going to happen tomorrow. We're not talking about closing schools down. But that's the stuff that's going to be on the agenda of looking at, okay, and many of these kids they'll be moving on to junior and high school by the time this stuff happens. So, but I just don't want the public they're closing schools down. No, we're not closing. It's going to take a while. But if the district can please, when that does happen, to see what we can do and sit down here, and it's just going to be a working group session, okay, coming up with a 10 to 15-year plan. Okay, what schools first, second, third, and what your recommendations are going to be. I have an idea of what you're looking at, but any other questions? All right. Basically, the go to 5.2, recommendation of Board of Trustees. I guess we're just gonna go with the recommendation right now with the two for the board for Monday, right? Monday. And closing remarks. Anybody have closing remarks that you want? All right. I just want to say thank you for everybody to be here. I think we cleared the air on a lot of issues, a lot of projects. It sounds like we're closing up on projects, and so that's great news. So there's not just money sitting out there. So the money's we're starting to move the taxpayer money and making sure the kids start getting what they need out there. And the biggest thing is just clearing the air on some things. If that is it, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.